Hey everybody, and welcome back to Blender. In this video we're going to expand on what we touched on in the last video with unwrapping our objects for texturing. Before I get started, a huge thank you to everyone for subscribing and hitting that notification icon. That really helps me out. And of course an even bigger thank you to my members and patrons. Your names will be running across the bottom of the screen at the end of the video. So if you remember from the last video, our texture we had unwrapped into the UV editor, but there were some issues with what will eventually become stretching in our texture, which of course is not ideal because that just makes editing the texture a pain in the bum, to be quite honest. So what we need to do is we actually need to figure out a way that we can edit the object's texture the way that it's unwrapped into our UV editor to make that a little bit easier. So that's what we're going to do. Now in the case of this object, we've actually got a pretty solid starting point, and what we can do is we can expand on that and we can actually create seams to allow us to basically control how this object is going to be unwrapped into our UV editor, and we can do that quite simply. So what we're in is edit mode at the moment, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Shift and Alt, and I'm actually going to select this loop here. Now if I press U, I can find down here mark seam, and that's what we're going to do, and that's created a nice solid line down there. That's created the seam. Now I'm going to move up our object to where the object starts to bend, so I'm going to go with about there, Shift Out again, and we're going to go down there. Now we can just come down here and make sure that we don't still have that selected, because that's going to create problems. So we hold down Shift Out now, select the seam that we want to create, press U, and we're going to go mark seam again. Select off the object, hold down our Shift key, we're going to move up a little bit further. Now I want our next seam to be on this one, so hold down Shift Out, click on the loop we want, press U, and we're going to mark the seam there. Then we're going to select off, Shift Out, select that one, U, mark seam like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm also going to do one here around the neck so that we can actually edit the texture of the entire object on the outside, and then the inside can all be one. So we're going to hit U there again and mark seam like so. Now if I were to zoom out a little bit, you can see that we've now got seams marked down the bottle like so. Now if we select off that, if we press it A like so, and then we press U, unwrap, now what we've got is a series of objects here that have been seam marked. Well, as you can see now that we've done that, we don't exactly have what we're after. There's a little bit of a weird business going on here, and that is because we're in the wrong projection mode. So what we need to do is press U when we have this selected, and we're going to go to cylinder projection, and then suddenly things make a little bit more sense, although not a lot. Now because we're not going to texture the inside of the bottle, we don't need to really worry about that. So what we can do is we can actually deselect that there, and we can just select the outside of the bottle, or the bits that we want. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag and select that, hold down Shift, drag and select that, hold down Shift, drag and select that, and we're still getting some very odd results, which is kind of annoying, but we can work around that. So what we can actually do is we're going to deselect the bits that we don't want, which at the moment is all of them, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to just select the faces that we want to edit. So I'm going to select that there, and then I'm going to select with Shift key that there, make sure I've got all the faces selected, so we can go around there like that, and around there like that, there we go. Now so all we've got here is the faces that we want to edit, and the UV texture is doing some weird stuff, but we can actually adjust that manually now. And what we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to, in our UV editor, we can actually decide whether we want to be in vertex, in line, or in face selection mode. So if we wanted to, we could work out what's going on over this side, and it looks like these vertices here are in very much the wrong place. So we can actually select those, and we can bring those back over to where they're meant to be, like this. And we can zoom in, and we can use our middle mouse button to move around like we could before. And that line seems to be going all the way across there inexplicably, and it's going to do these kind of weird things every now and again. And yet, unfortunately, part of the job of editing your UVs is to sort out these textures like so. And if we wanted to, we could try just doing an unwrap on that shape again, and then we can just press U and we can go to cylinder projection and just see if it will actually tidy that up for us. And in this case, it actually has, which is fantastic. So now we want to straighten this line up. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that there, and then we're actually going to hit S, and in the Z direction or the X direction, we're just going to reduce that down to near enough 0. And then we can do the same thing again if we were to go back into our select tool, and we can go into line selection. We can actually go to loop select, and if we click on one of these, it's going to select that side. We just got to make sure that we don't have the other loop selected. Excellent. And we can hit S, and we can actually adjust that up and down. But if we just go adjust S in the X in the Y direction, we can actually, just by hitting the Y key, we can flatten that off. And that's a little bit heavy-handed, so I'm just going to hit the escape key. And I'm going to do it manually with the scale tool, only because there's a little bit too sensitive using it the other way. Cool. So we can deselect that loop. We're going to hit Shift S again, select that loop. We're already in the scale tool, so we can just level that off like so. Shift tab again. Sorry, Shift deselect that. Shift Alt even to select a loop. We've got the wrong loop. Deselect again. You can zoom in if you want to. That will make life a little bit easier, and we can just scale that down in there. Deselect again. Shift Alt, select that loop. Flatten that off like so. And then we can actually just select the whole thing, and we could scale that whole thing down in the Y-axis again, so that it actually fits our UV editor. And then we can just go to the move tool, and we can move it so that it fills up the box. And we can just hit S if we want to shrink it down a little bit. So that is the texture for that part of our object now contained within our UV editor. The issue is that if we wanted to export this UV editor image into a file, everything else is going to overlay this object. So what we really want to do is actually scale this down considerably to kind of that much, and then drag it into the corner like so. And then that gives us that sat there. Now if we were to press A in our editor mode, you can see that has now stayed there. That's now sitting there fat, dumb and happy, like the texture we want it to be. So we can now do that for the other parts of our object. So what we can do, we've got face mode selected, we can do that for this side, come around there, make sure that we've got the entire thing selected by holding down the Shift key. We'll come around our object and then just grab those last few faces that haven't been included. As you can see, doing some weird stuff. So we're going to hit U again, and we're going to hit unwrap, and then we're going to hit U, and we're going to change that to cylinder projection, and that has basically done everything we want it to do straight away. So now what we can do is we can select the face that we want, hit S, scale that right down, and then move that to kind of up there. And then if we press A over here, you can see now we've got two of our major faces that we want to edit already scaled up nicely, ready to edit over here, and we can repeat that for the remainder of the faces that we want to edit. Thanks very much for watching this video, guys. I hope you found that useful. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I will see you in the next video, but until then, you take real good care of yourselves, guys. Bye bye.